Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we look at life through a biblical lens. We try to solve all the world's problems in 2 hours or less. We've been doing this for the best part of 20 years. Where you been? I wanted to talk to you tonight about Mark Driscoll. You remember Mark Driscoll, don't you? I think Mark is a walking illustration of what's really wrong with the contemporary system today. Mark was a young fella, had no background at all in theology, no training, no call to the ministry, had pointed himself in an entirely different direction, went to school, to college, and took courses in communication and that sort of thing. But then he felt like he really wanted to get involved in the ministry. He married a girl in a church, might have been a pastor's daughter, I can't remember for sure. And he started a church in, I think it was Seattle, based on his desire, based on the vision of what a church is that he had. And it became very successful. It became very well known. Mars Hill was the name of the church. It even became well respected in many circles. Falling out of favor with God and his church for basically cheating in order to get his book on the New York Times bestseller list put a little chink in that armor. In the aftermath of that whole scandal, which a lot of people thought was manufactured scandal, I don't think that Mark thought he had done anything all that terrible. There are others in the Christian community that didn't think it was all that terrible. But in the aftermath of all of that, the leadership of the church rose up to put pressure on him to make things right. And not just cheating on this little system, but the spending of church money to do it. Not to mention the things that he had been doing, the way he had been running things, the people that he had alienated, some of the former members that had left and were, on the verge of suing the church for the way they were treated and that sort of thing. He's now outside that system. Later, other things started to pop up. Dirt of one sort or another started poking out of the cracks and the crevices. And there was a move to get him to come back and defend himself, make things right, work through it. I'm not sure how all that really sifted out, but the bottom line is that the 5 churches that made up Mars Hill Church all shut down. Well, it's been about a year, a little over a year, and he's now out in the Phoenix, Arizona area. Stockdale, I think, is where he's at, ready to start another church. He's a little bit older, and he's a little bit wiser, and this church is going to begin on Easter Sunday with a small group of people who are interested to pursue the possibilities of how this is all going to work. Now, I'm under the impression that the property has already been purchased, the leadership is already in place. They want to do this. What's missing here? Well, what's missing here is accountability. Ecclesiastical accountability. Something that has been the hallmark of the Christian church from the beginning. But with the onset of the charismatic movement, the onset of the community church, or the Bible church, the independent churches, the contemporary churches, accountability went out the window. Does it keep men honest? Well, it can. But if they want to be something else, it won't. So what's the value of having accountability if it's not going to work? Well, it does work. It doesn't necessarily stop somebody from doing things that are wrong, but it brings in an accountability after the fact. Tullian Tavigian down in Florida, a more traditional approach, went to Bible college, seminary. Uh, I don't know how he got into ministry to start with, but he was pastoring a fairly good-sized church there. When D. James Kennedy died, and the folks there at Coral Ridge asked him if he would come and be their pastor. Now, not everybody was happy with that, but he came and he did this. It wasn't long, maybe 5 years, 7 years, I've forgotten what the timing really is, but his marriage went south. Now, he didn't tell anybody that, but now, looking back, he is explaining it. How that he committed adultery. And he said he did that because his wife was doing it with some other guy, and he had sought out comfort from another woman. Now, what married man pastor seeks comfort from another woman? You seek comfort from God, you seek comfort from the board, you seek comfort from whatever the accountability group is, men, that you fellowship with. You find a man that you can trust, and you pray and you work. No, he looked for a woman, and he got caught at it. His wife probably turned him in, I don't know. And as a result, he did the right thing. He resigned his church. Now, I don't know where the denomination was in all of this, but I feel fairly certain that he knew that under the umbrella of the authority, the structure of that church, he would have to do that. And he did. In a very short period of time, just a few months' time, another Presbyterian church in Florida hired him to come in, not to be a pastor, but to help with administration and do, some ministry kinds of things. And they saw themselves, being part of the solution, not part of the problem. But now, apparently, they fired him. It seems there was another woman prior to the one he admitted to, wherein he committed adultery with her as well. But that one just slipped his mind. No, he didn't even think anybody was going to find out about it. But they did. And when they did, he had to go. Now, the point here is the difference. There's accountability in that system. I don't know what group of Presbyterianism it is, but whatever it is, there's accountability in that system, and everybody knows how that works. And it's under the understanding that people are people, and things happen. And without everything being out on the table, in sight, for the whole world to see, God and everybody, as we used to say, stuff happens. In small churches and in these churches where the pastor is in charge, things happen there too. But they can be ignored, or they can be hidden. Is Mark Driscoll qualified to pastor a church? No, not really. He's not qualified because he did not, and I say this advisedly because I don't know, but there's been no indication ever anywhere that he appeared before an ordination committee from his denomination or from his group of churches or whatever. I mean, churches can be independent. I pastored an independent church. There was somebody that came up, wanted to be, I would call the pastors I know, get them together of like mind. We'd investigate this person. It wouldn't be me saying, yeah, John's a great guy, let's do it. No. It's not how you do it. I'm a member right now of an independent church. They're not identified with any group. And one of the first things I saw, been over a year now, was an ordination meeting. A fellow in the church, an older fellow, was finishing up his theological degree. He felt like God had called him in the ministry, and the pastor called pastors from the church, and from the area rather, and they went at him, and they challenged him and questioned him and investigated. Did Mark Driscoll get any of that? And if he did get that, how come when he had the problem at Mars Hill, that group didn't step back up again? In my youth, I was the chairman of the committee that it was called the Ordination Advisory Committee of the denomination I was involved in. And our committee's job was to see if this candidate was worthy enough to call out the troops, to get the other 47, 50, or 100 guys to come take the time and travel and spend a day doing this. Well, if something happened to one of those people and the church would contact the denomination, that committee would go right back at that and maybe call out the troops or do whatever needed to be done. It didn't happen. So I'm thinking that the Mars Hill Church, whatever it was, wasn't connected to anybody. Tavigian, is he qualified to pastor a church? No. Neither Mark Driscoll nor Tullian Tavigian are qualified now to ever pastor a church again. Why? They're not above reproach. It's one of the qualifications. For the rest of their lives, people can point the finger at them and say, yeah, but it's like, we know who you are because we saw this and we know that. It influences people's opinion of the Lord Jesus Christ and of his church. Now it appears, according to testimony, that Driscoll was not just somebody doing something dishonest, but he wasn't a nice person either. People had a lot of stuff against him, the way he treated them and all the rest of it. He didn't simply make a mistake. He stole $200,000 from the church. He did this so that his publishing company could make money. And some organization, I guess, that does this sort of thing took the money and they bought his book in small quantities, making it look like it were individuals or just a small, like a bookstore or a small group was buying them, and they bought $200,000 worth of his books. And when that book came out on the bestsellers list, it came out up in the top. Say, and that drives sales. That's just a marketing ploy. But it doesn't sound right, does it? Now keep in mind, he said everybody does this. And inquiring minds want to know. And they found out that generally that's the way it works. Yeah, but it doesn't work that way within the Christian community. Yeah, it really does. I don't know how many people do it, but David Jeremiah stood up and said, no, that's what we do. Now, in his case, they used the money out of the business account that, the separate company that established, because he's written a lot of books. But that's how you do it. I got my book, Frontal Assault. I think it's a great little book. I probably won't sell 100 copies of this book in my lifetime. You say, oh, no, this is my second book. I didn't sell 100 copies of the first one. You say, well, you're not very good at writing books. I think they're great little books, and everybody that's read them has just said, wow, this is really good. But who knows it's out there? Now, what I need to do is to go and spend $200,000 to have these books sold so that it shows up. Bang! Oh, wow, that's a great book. And this is marketing today. The bottom line here is that the church is in deep, deep trouble. The sand under her feet is quick, as in quicksand. It's not going to get better until God's people are better. It's not going to get fixed until the pastors start doing the things they're supposed to do, which is to be above reproach. Is your pastor above reproach in the eyes of the community, in the eyes of your church? If he is not, somebody needs to talk to him. Someday, he'll appreciate that.